It's kind of amazing how certain weapons in science fiction, they kind of go beyond just being tools of destruction and become like these pop culture icons. And I gotta say, I think the chainsword is like the ultimate example of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it embodies like raw destructive power, but there's also this strange beauty in like how brutally simple it is,
Huh.
you know?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? That kind of paradox, the idea that something can be so brutally effective, but also so fascinating from a technical point of view. I mean, the basic concept is pretty easy to grasp, right? But the more you kind of dig into the specifics of how it actually works, all the different variations that are out there, and the actual skill that it takes to wield one of these things, well, it gets pretty intriguing.
And while chainswords like pop up in all sorts of sci-fi settings,
Uh-huh.
I think it's important to give credit where credit is due and acknowledge the granddaddy of them all,
Mm-hmm.
the Warhammer 40K chainsword.
Mm-hmm.
It's the gold standard, the one that truly captures like the visceral essence of this weapon.
Yeah. The grim darkness of the 40K universe definitely provides the perfect backdrop for a weapon like the chainsword, right? I mean, it's not just about the visual aesthetic either. It's the lore behind it, the sheer variety of ways it's been depicted, and how deeply it's woven into that whole universe.
Totally. So where did these legendary weapons even come from? I mean, did some ancient blacksmith just have like a light bulb moment and decide to stick a chainsaw on a sword?
Well, that's one of the biggest mysteries surrounding the chainsword in 40K. Its origins are shrouded in that same fog of war and lost history that kind of permeates the whole setting, you know? Some people theorize that it's a human invention, maybe a relic of the age of technology, that period of crazy human advancement that came before the Imperium as we know it.
Oh, right. The age of technology, when humanity was at its technological peak, before everything went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if those ancient humans maybe created something even more terrifying than the chainsword.
It's definitely possible, although who knows what secrets are buried under millennia of conflict and decay, right? There are other theories out there too. Some say the chainsword could be based on some ancient alien technology, something humanity stumbled upon and adapted for its own purposes.
Yeah, that makes sense considering humanity in 40K has a bit of a history of, well, let's just say borrowing technology from other races.
Exactly.
The fact that we don't know for sure actually adds to the chainsword's mystique. I mean, it could be a testament to human ingenuity or maybe a dark legacy of some long-forgotten war. Either way, it's pretty fascinating.
Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of how a chainsword actually works. At its core, it's surprisingly simple. You've got a powered blade with teeth usually sharpened to a monomolecular edge, making them crazy sharp. These teeth run along a track driven by a small but powerful motor, which creates that iconic whirring sound.
And I can only imagine when those teeth come into contact with flesh and bone, well, let's just say the results are pretty gruesome. I've seen descriptions that would make even the most hardened soldiers sick to their stomach.
Yeah, the sources I've come across definitely don't shy away from the gory details. They paint a very vivid and kind of disturbing picture of what a chainsword can do to a body. It doesn't just cut, it tears and grinds, turning flesh into a bloody mess. The force of the impact, combined with those razor-sharp teeth, well, it creates wounds that are almost impossible to treat, even with the advanced medical tech they have in the 40K universe.
It really embodies the brutal nature of close quarters combat in that setting, but there's just this common misconception that using a chainsword is all about brute force, that it's just a matter of swinging it around like a madman and letting the teeth do the work.
Right, that's a dangerous oversimplification. Skilled chainsword users understand there's an art to using this weapon effectively. They know how to block attacks without losing teeth, how to keep their weapons in top shape so they don't jam in the middle of a fight, and how to combine speed and precision with their strength to get the most out of every swing.
So it's more like a deadly dance than a mindless rampage. It's about control and technique as much as raw power.
Exactly. One of the things that makes the chainsword so interesting in 40K is how widespread it is. It's not just limited to one faction or army, almost everyone uses them. From the Imperium of Man to the forces of chaos. Even the alien races like the Orcs and Eldar have their own versions.
Well, I guess if it's effective, it's effective. No matter who you are or what you believe in, a chainsword is going to get the job done.
And that leads us to another fascinating aspect. The sheer variety of chainsword designs you find across the 40K universe. You have everything from crude, cobbled-together weapons to elegant, master-crafted blades, each one reflecting the unique cultures and technologies of the people who made them.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how the same basic concept can be interpreted in so many ways. It really speaks to the creativity and ingenuity, or in some cases, the sheer brutality of the different factions in 40K.
Take the orcs, for example. Their chuppahs, as they call them, are often crude and haphazardly put together from whatever scrap metal they can find, with teeth sometimes made from their own sharpened fangs.
That's both terrifying and strangely impressive.
Mm.
I mean, you got to admire their resourcefulness, even if their craftsmanship leaves a lot to be desired.
Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Eldar, or Asuriani, as they're properly known. Their chainswords are often described as being almost silent, but incredibly deadly, a testament to their advanced technology and martial prowess.
So you have the crude and brutal on one side, and the sleek and deadly on the other. It's a pretty stark contrast.
And of course, we can't forget the iconic chainswords of the Imperium of Man, especially those wielded by the Adeptus Astartes, better known as the Space Marines. Their chainswords are often bigger and more powerful than those used by regular humans, reflecting the enhanced strength and size of the Space Marines themselves.
The Space Marines are like the poster boys of 40K, and their chainswords are practically legendary. I bet there are tons of variations and patterns, each with its own history and significance.
You're absolutely right. There are countless patterns and designs, each with its own story to tell. But the most common one you see is the Margiakli, usually called Hell's Teeth.
Hell's Teeth. Now that's a name that perfectly captures the essence of a chainsword. You can practically hear those teeth ripping and tearing through anything in their path.
Yeah. It's a fitting name for a weapon that's so closely associated with the Space Marines. And even within the Mark Elephant pattern, you have some interesting variations. For example, the Space Wolves, a chapter known for their ferocity and their connection to their icy homeworld of Fenris, they prefer frost blades.
Frost blades, those sound pretty cool. What makes them different from a regular chainsword?
These unique chainswords are said to be made with the fangs of ice krakens, massive sea monsters, natives to Fenris, and they're imbued with a distinctive blue power field that boosts their cutting power and gives them a pretty chilling appearance.
So they're not just aesthetically cool, they actually pack an extra punch.
Exactly. They combine the best of a chainsword with the added power of a force weapon, making them a fearsome sight to behold on the battlefield.
You know, I'm starting to think I need to get a frost blade to my bucket list, even if I have no clue where I'd find an ice kraken fang.
I admire your ambition, though I'm not sure eBay is the best place to look for something like that. Speaking of unique variations, if you're looking for something with a bit more, well, let's just say edge, there's the lock pattern, also known as the Mercy chainsword.
Mercy. That's a kind of ominous name for a chainsword. What makes it so special?
Well, unlike most chainswords, which have a protective casing around the back of the blade, the Mercy chainsword is double-edged.
Hold on, a double-edged chainsword. So it can cut you just as easily as your enemy. That seems a bit counterproductive, don't you think?
It's definitely a weapon for those who live on the edge, both literally and figuratively. They embrace the risk, seeing the potential for self-harm, as a testament to their dedication to close-quarters combat.
I guess when you're facing down hordes of demons and aliens, a little self-inflicted wound is the least of your worries. It definitely takes a certain kind of warrior to wield a weapon like that.
Indeed. But let's not forget that a weapon is only as good as the person using it. The 40K universe is full of stories of legendary heroes and villains who have used chainswords to devastating effect, their names etched in history.
Well, in that case, you got to give me some examples. Who should I be reading up on later? Who are the chainsword masters whose exploits have become legendary?
If we're talking about the Space Wolves, we can't overlook Ragnar Blackmane, a wolf lord known for his ferocity and unwavering loyalty to his chapter. He wields a frost blade named Frostfang, a weapon that's been passed down through generations of Space Wolves heroes.
A family heirloom of pain. I kind of love it.
Then there's Gabriel Seth, the current chapter master of the Flesh Terrors. His chainsword Blood Reaver is a massive, two-handed beast of a weapon almost twice the size of a regular Astartes chainsword. It's said he can swing it in a full 360-degree arc, cutting down multiple enemies with each swing.
It's just showing off. I bet it's a terrifying sight to see on the battlefield, though.
Imagine a whirlwind of blood and fury, and that's Gabriel Seth with Blood Reaver. And if you're looking for a chainsword with a particularly chilling backstory, there's Witchbane, wielded by a Black Templar named Navril.
What makes this one so special?
He earned that name by killing a powerful Eldar Farseer, a psyker with immense power in single combat, proving that even psychic might is no match for a well-used chainsword.
To take down a psyker with a chainsword that takes guts and skill, I'm starting to see why these weapons have become so legendary.
Those are just a few examples. Every chapter of Space Marines, every warband, every corner of the 40K universe probably has its own stories of legendary chainswords and the warriors who wielded them. It's part of what makes the setting so rich and compelling.
It makes you wonder what kind of stories are being written right now on some distant battlefield, what new legends are being forged in the fires of war.
That's the beauty of the 40K universe. The story is always evolving, always expanding. There's always a new conflict, a new hero, a new weapon waiting to be discovered. We've talked about the origins, the mechanics, the variations, the wielders, but I think there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore: the art of chainsword combat. It's not just about swinging wildly right. There's got to be some skill involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wielding a chainsword effectively is an art form in itself, requiring a combination of strength, speed, precision, and an understanding of the weapon's limitations. After all, those teeth aren't going to cut through everything.
Precisely. A skilled chainsword wielder knows when to strike with brute force and when to use finesse, how to angle the blade to maximize cutting power, how to parry without throwing teeth, and how to exploit an opponent's weaknesses.
So it's a bit like a deadly dance. You need to be light on your feet, anticipate your opponent's moves, and strike with precision. Speaking of which, we talked earlier about the importance of maintenance. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course, proper maintenance is crucial for any weapon, but especially so for a chainsword. Imagine your weapon seizing up in the middle of a heated battle. Not a good situation. A jammed chainsword is as good as useless, leaving you vulnerable to your enemies.
That's a thought I'd rather not dwell on. Any tips for aspiring chainsword masters out there? What skills should they be focusing on?
First and foremost, familiarize yourself with your weapon. Understand its weight, its balance, how it feels in your hand. Practice basic swings and strikes, focusing on fluid movements and control.
Control over chaos. Got it.
Then work on your footwork. You need to be able to move quickly and change direction easily, always staying one step ahead of your opponent.
And don't forget those defensive moves. Nobody wants to lose a limb to a stray chainsword.
Indeed, parrying is essential. Learn to deflect blows without letting the teeth of your chainsword clash directly with your opponent's weapon. This will help preserve your teeth and prevent them from flying off at inopportune moments, potentially injuring you or your allies.
Safety first, even in the grim darkness of the far future. So it's not just about strength and aggression, it's also about precision and control.
Exactly. Never underestimate the importance of speed and precision. A well-placed thrust or a lightning-fast slash can be far more effective than a wild swing. It's about working smarter, not harder, using the chainsword's strengths to your advantage.
It seems like mastering the chainsword is as much a mental challenge as it is a physical one. You need to have the discipline and focus to control such a powerful weapon.
You're absolutely right. It's about discipline control and a deep understanding of both the weapon and yourself. A true chainsword master isn't just a berserker. They're a warrior who has honed their skills to a razor-sharp edge.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from the mysterious origins of the chainsword to the intricacies of its combat applications. We've explored the vast array of variations, the legendary wielders, and the sheer visceral appeal of this iconic weapon.
But before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a thought. If you could design your own chainsword, what would it look like? What unique features would it have? What name would you give it? What stories would it tell? We've really dug deep into the 40K universe, haven't we? Uncovering the stories of these legendary heroes and villains who've used the chainsword to wreak havoc.
And we looked at the art of chainsword combat too, talking about the skill and finesse it takes to master this brutal but undeniably awesome weapon.
From those crude orc choppas to those elegant Eldar blades, from the iconic Hell's Teeth of the Space Marines to Ragnar Blackmane's chilling Frostfang, the chainsword really shows the power of human ingenuity, the allure of destruction, and the lasting appeal of a weapon that's captured the imaginations of so many people.
It's a weapon that truly transcends time and space.
Absolutely.
If you've enjoyed our deep dive into the chainsword, be sure to check out our other episodes where we explore all sorts of fascinating topics, uncovering mysteries and hidden gems of knowledge. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those chainswords sharp.